Welcome back, guys, to another episode of Always Making. Thanks again for joining us here in the studio. I'm Derek.
And I'm Christy.
And you're watching Steadfast Rebels. And thanks for joining us. We're on episode 22 of the podcast. We've got some guests lined up on the next episodes of our podcast, but we do want to kind of run over some of the topics we keep going back and forth on with our conversations. So
yeah, well, and really quickly, this episode is a week later than usually scheduled, but Derek wasn't feeling well, and then baby wasn't feeling well, and we had markets, and
we had travel, we had a couple things that all came into play. So we are a week late, but still we're still here. We're still doing it.
Yeah, hopefully you stuck with us.
But yes. But we did have a first time market here in Salt Lake for Mill Creek Bazaar. That was
the Mill Creek Commons.
Fun market, fun little location because you like your roller skating, and we have all our roller skate accessories online. But it's right there at the roller rink in Mill Creek.
Yeah, the outdoor rink.
And so that was also our first show with Juniper doing like. She wasn't there the whole day, but I mean, she was there a good portion of the day, and we managed with her.
She did great.
Yeah.
Smiled at people.
Yeah.
Social.
I think she helped sell some stuff too. I mean, people saw her and they're like, oh man, they have a kid. We should probably buy their stuff. And
look at that cute baby. We can't say no to that cute face.
But again, guys, sorry if I'm a little raspy. My voice is kind of just getting back to me from being sick last week. But moving on from that, great show. We will be there in the following week after this podcast release on the 9th of June.
Yes.
We also have all of July, we will be up in Brighton Resort for the BCC Flea, Big Cottonwood Canyon Flea. So if you guys come out on Sundays, say hi, join us up there. I know we have a couple other vendor friends that are planning to be out there for the summer shows as well.
It's nice and cool up in the mountains when it's hot down here in the valley for sure.
Yeah. I don't know if we announced it yet. I don't know if we had the stuff, but we did get accepted into Craft Lake City.
Yes.
Also, I don't know if we mentioned it or not, but we will be at Craft Lake City this year. Again, this will be our third year at Craft Lake City, which we love the show. It's such a great show. So many amazing, talented artists. I don't have room on the wall for more art, but we will probably
unless it's very small.
But we'll be having to find some new wall space for some more art for sure, because
like we could put some stuff like over there maybe. Looking around the room.
We definitely can't. We won't be able to walk out of that place without buying some kind of other art. Oh my
gosh, I know. That show's the best.
There's that announcement. Then the show Crafts and Drafts that we've been partnering up with Squeech. That was the first show out at Keto's Brewery down in downtown LA. It was a 21 and over show.
Salt Lake, not LA.
Wow.
We were in California for one weekend.
I know, geez, man. Downtown. I almost said it again. Salt Lake, right by the food hall and. I think it's a food hall that's right there. Yeah. Or is it?
The concert venue's over there too.
But anyways. Keto's Brewery, great location. It was a 21 and over show. So if you guys want to come out for the next one, that's June 15th. Yep. Again, that'll be the week after, 2 weeks after this episode drops for you guys.
Day before Father's Day, and get some last minute Father's Day gifts.
Yeah, actually, and it was funny. The first one we did was day before Mother's Day.
Yeah.
And so we're doing day before Father's Day now. Yeah, those are the shows right now. We've got a couple applications out for some other shows. Hoping to hear back from them. We'll let you guys know if those go through. But enough about the shows. This is where we wanted to get into on the conversation with all of this said and done. Oh yeah, like, subscribe, comment, do the things down below. They're supposed to do. They help us tremendously with like moving forward with this stuff.
Yes, for real though.
It really does. So yeah, if you guys click the like button or share or any of those things, it really does help us out. But Etsy.
So we wanted to focus this episode a little bit more about our Etsy shop, kind of the other half of our business, because we do spend a lot of time on this podcast talking about in-person markets and events. That's where we meet a lot of the other guests that we have on the show. But we also have an Etsy shop, and that's, like I said, the other half of our business, basically.
So we get this straight. You've been doing Etsy since 2012. Is that right?
I believe so.
Is that the first year?
Remember exactly.
3 different shops.
Yeah. So I've had quite a few different shops. My very first shop was called Alligator Toe, named by you. I don't remember where that nickname came from, but we'll move on from that. I had a show.
I do remember exactly where that nickname came from and everything.
We don't need to get into it. But I sold a lot of vintage, and I would also upcycle vintage. I loved thrift shopping. I mean, since back in the day. So I would find cute stuff and either upcycle it or sell it as is if it was, something cute. So that was my first shop, and that was I think it was right out of college, so maybe it was a little bit before 2012.
Okay.
But I had that shop for a while, and then it kind of fizzled out. I was busy with work and other things, life, and then my next shop I started, I want to say 2017, 2018,
something.
No, 2017, 2016, I don't remember, but that was my it was called Snickety Witch. It was my wizard themed shop. So I sold my custom Harry Potter robes, ended up selling some wands, some other small things. And that shop was really successful to the point where I had a waiting list of people who wanted to order robes from me. We've talked about this before. And then I got a cease and desist basically from Warner Brothers that was like, your robes are too good, so stop selling them and competing with us.
This is the struggle. Like, so what we wanted to get into this conversation with Etsy, and we'll continue down this like history a little bit about it, but there's kind of a pushback right now, at least in the maker world, against Etsy, and I do understand it. I get it. But there's also like there's nothing out there that does what Etsy does. And this is by no means, we're not paid by Etsy. We're not like, this is from our own experience.
Personally a fan.
We've been there. We can easily say over 10 years doing it. You primarily do our Etsy stuff. I have an Etsy shop that I had for a moment. It still has a couple things up. They're print on demand. It's something very easy to do. But our main source of like all the other things, even stuff we don't sell at shows very regularly, goes through the Etsy because it's an easier way for people to find that marketplace for some of the specialty items we do.
Right. So like getting into third Etsy shop, Delightfully Christy, is how I started it during the pandemic, and then we decided we wanted to like really fully like lean into the two of us having a business together, and that's when we turned into Steadfast Rebels. But like you said, the reason we love Etsy so much is because it is a built-in marketplace. Yeah. They have a built-in audience. People know they want something handmade. They want something unique. They can go to Etsy and they can find that. And then we don't have to try and find foot traffic for our website. We don't have to try and get people to go to our site and buy our stuff. There's already a marketplace there.
Yeah. So I don't want to like harp on the negative stuff that people deal with. But one of the things I hear a lot of feedback is, and like a lot of like social media people go, just start your own website. Just do your own website instead of going and paying a percentage to so-and-so and this kind of stuff.
Use Squarespace and Shopify or whatever it may be. And
it yes, that is a solution to go if you have an audience for your stuff. The reason Etsy is there and they make it so easily available, and even too easy for certain like other organizations to get involved with it as well, but you get potentially the traffic and people that search for certain things. I was I think I've mentioned this on the podcast before, maybe not, but I was at a bar. I don't drink, but I was at a bar with some friends when we were on a project in another state. We were kind of eating dinner, and they were having a drink, and we got along the topic of some of the custom stuff I make and sell, and same thing with what Christy makes. And one of the guys brought up, he's like, I just read an article about they had BDMS stuff for Barbie toys. And I just go, yeah, that's the beauty of Etsy, is there is niches out there, and you might not sell thousands and thousands of items, but if there's someone looking for stuff, I usually go for the weird stuff is to go to Etsy first, because that's
likely be on there.
Yeah. And like what what the population has been trained to do by really good marketing. Hey, handmade custom stuff, go to Etsy. Now we have large companies and large other organizations taking advantage of what Etsy is, and
and that's one complaint I've heard of more recently specifically, is that you are starting to see a lot more sellers who aren't actually making things handmade. They're buying things off of, let's say,
drop ship options,
AliExpress, those kinds of like pre-made things, and then just loading them into their shop and selling them, and it's not handmade at all. which is valid. But Etsy is trying really hard to like crack down on those kinds of things and make sure that it is still a unique and handmade marketplace for sure.
The other thing to take in consideration too is we all see the influencers, we all see the social media, we all see this idea of like you can print or you can have people buy digital downloads of organizers or your patterns, and you can make thousands of dollars and work from home and all this stuff. It's not that easy, and like it's not as much of the hey, if I just put this file up, it's gonna sell tens of thousands. We have files that have sat there that have sold absolutely zilch, not a single download, and that's okay. We because we have other things in our Etsy shop.
Yeah, digital downloads aren't like primarily what our shop is about anyways.
What I want to come across, and like for the people who are on the fence of like, hey, should I start an Etsy? Should I do? It's gonna take time. It's gonna take some effort, and don't think by just posting your first thing up, it's going to sell in the first week. Now, I have had multiple friends who have started an Etsy shop and their stuff has sold in the first week. So, I've had friends, which I give the push. I try like, hey, just take your art and put it there and see what happens. Mm-hmm. And one of my favorites is I have a buddy who put something up, and in a week he was shipping something to Canada.
Yeah.
Like that's really cool, because if he never put it up, the item would have never been found by however the person found it through the search algorithm and everything, to then get shipped off into someone's house to be put up in another foreign country. Mm-hmm. How many foreign countries have you sold stuff out to or shipped stuff out to?
I don't even know. I will say we don't have quite as many foreign sales as I have with other shops, but I mean,
as
France,
and COVID also screwed up a lot of foreign
for sure.
shipments.
And there've been a lot of changes since COVID with like VAT and technical stuff like that with shipping. But yeah, I mean France, Netherlands, Canada, Germany. I mean like all over, primarily Europe and
which is really cool.
Yeah,
to think about. Like we can make wild. Something in this time and day, and we can ship it to somewhere across the world, and somebody who might have never came to a local show mm-hmm. and seen what we did, and they now have something of ours in other part of the world. That is, the internet is a cool thing for that. And I'm not, again, we're not paid by Etsy. We're not trying to sell Etsy or any of that. But because of what that platform has allowed us to do, we have grown as a business and been mm-hmm. able to feel more comfortable with what we do. Here's another thing and a tip and a thing. If you are going down the rabbit hole of starting your own website and you start selling into other states, guess what? You have to have a way to track your taxes for each one of those states.
Yep. You have to pay sales tax for every single one of those states. And every sales tax rate is different in every state, in every county, in every city. Guess who takes care of that for you if you sell on Etsy?
Yeah.
Etsy does.
Etsy. Also, we have a tax person that we pay a good chunk of money for each year to deal with our business taxes, because I don't want to sit here and deal with it. And Christy gets stressed over when we just collect the receipts from all year for taxes. So, that's the thing. Get somebody to do your taxes for you as a business person that they specialize in. So that's one thing.
But the sales tax side of things, like if you use Etsy, they take care of collecting and remitting all the sales tax to each individual state.
Yeah, so
which is awesome.
that saves you as a startup, as a first-time business person, as someone who just wants to try out the maker seller world. It can get very stressful very quickly mm-hmm. with all the different things that can come into play with what is needed to run a business. And the worst thing that happens to a lot of people is they don't make sure their like finances and taxes and everything are in check, and they get penalized and they get fined, and they don't realize there's cost to run business in that sense. So like having a platform that allows those kind of things to all be gathered is another reason you kind of pay that extra little fee to go through it.
Yeah.
I've seen, so I go through a lot of different forums trying to read up on whatever is happening with modern changes. You have dealt with Etsy for over 10 years. Mm-hmm. From the start to where it is now, mm-hmm. what is like that big change that you've really noticed?
Honestly, I think the biggest thing I've noticed is that it is a much, much bigger marketplace. There are a lot more sellers. There are a lot more shops. There's a lot more stuff. So there's a lot more competition, which I think can be really daunting for someone who's just starting out and thinking, well, I'm going to put this up and no one's going to see it. But like you said, if you give it time, if you keep putting your listings up, working on your photos, working on your descriptions, chances are at some point someone will take a chance on your shop and you'll get noticed and you'll start getting sales slowly and they'll build. And then aside from that, Etsy has really made it as easy as possible. They have a lot of advice in their forums, in their Etsy help section. There's a whole community. There's a ton of people there that are also there to help, not just there to sell. And help new shops. People can give you like little shop audits, quote unquote, and check out your shop and give you advice. I've also seen the fees increase, which people complain about a lot. But like I said, I think it's worth it to have the service that Etsy provides and the built-in customer base that Etsy provides.
So my argument, and I understand when we make a product and we go to a show and we sell that product for $20, and if we put it up on Etsy, that $20 that we make off of that product now turns into $14. Say, I rough numbers, guys. I'm not giving exact numbers.
Yeah.
But what you have to adjust when you're shopping online is, hey, that product is now $28 on Etsy to cover taxes, to cover fees, to cover shipping, all this stuff. What us as makers, we lack a confidence sometimes in the value of our work. We've talked about that on other episodes and shows and how we kind of figure out what that is. But you need to understand that when you're putting yourself into a marketplace that is competitive in that same nature, we talked about this. Don't devalue your item by trying to cut the market and sell cheaper, because you're just cutting yourself. Like that's not going to benefit you. You need to put yourself where your fees are covered for in your cost of everything, because a lot of times the people who are shopping on Etsy understands that. A lot of times the people who are shopping on Etsy are fellow makers looking for unique items and going, hey, I understand this is handmade. This is time. Now we get our complicated customers sometimes and our Karens of the world that want to complain that it took 2 weeks to get my item instead of the Amazon overnight shipping, which like it, we're makers. If you don't want to buy an Etsy item, don't go to Etsy. Like that's
well, and as long as you're clear in your like shop policies and in your processing times, they'll see when they go to buy your item, like the processing time is 1 to 2 days or 1 to 2 weeks, depending on what the item is.
Well, I mean, we it just got delivered today. Handmade jewelry item that I bought for Christy.
Yeah. Right now.
It took a month to get here. I knew exactly when I bought it that I'm like, well, I'm going to miss Mother's Day. But that was my fault for not giving it a month ahead. But it was like, okay, like I get it. There was no complaints to the seller. There was no, hey, can you rush this? Can you get, no, it's like, I'm like, you're a maker, make your art as great as you can. And I'll appreciate it. And when I think you like it.
I do.
So, again, patience is one of those things with any of this maker stuff that really should take into consideration with it.
Yeah. Well, and back to like pricing and valuing your art, I do think like, especially in a marketplace like Etsy where there are so many options, if people are looking for, let's say a art print, just for an example, and they're seeing all these art prints, 25, 20, 30, all in that same price range, and then they see yours at $5, they're going to go, well, I don't want like something that's going to be cheap. They're going to assume that it's maybe printed on cheap paper or it's cheap quality because the price is so low. So they're going to stick with that $20, $25 print that's in the same range as everybody else.
Yeah, so you end up not making that sale. You end up losing that sale, and you end up starting to, like, because you're not getting that traction, start going further and further down that list of things that they're searching for. Getting into the conversation of the stuff that you make. The thing that I see notorious on social media, and again, influencers that you guys, like, I get it. They got large real numbers and stuff like that, but that large number translates to sales for them. With a shop that has 500 like Instagram followers, it's not the same translation. What trend chasing like stuff on Etsy might get you to the top, but it will also put you at the very bottom when that trend is over, kind of thing, because it's not something that is going to stay. And it's so hard to like share our experience that we've had for 20 years of making is to find your voice and just make what makes you happy. And the people will eventually find your stuff on Etsy. Because it's a waiting game in all fairness.
Well, and we've inadvertently kind of followed trends without necessarily meaning to. I mean, I started the Etsy shop during COVID making face masks simply because I was making them myself and I was making them for friends and family. And I was like, well, it's getting too hard to keep track of orders on Instagram. And I've done Etsy before. Let me just throw these up on Etsy and I can send my friends and family there. Not necessarily intending to, start a full-time business out of it. But because I had friends and family ordering, then my shop grew and I got sales from there. But like Derek said, once the face mask trend was, well, not even trend, but once the mandatory, exactly, orders for face masks started falling in various states, orders started dropping and they dropped quickly. And then I was left with like very few orders in my shop. And then we kind of, again, inadvertently fell onto the next trend, which was roller skating, but only because I got into roller skating and I thought, oh, what are these cute toe caps I keep seeing? Let me try making some for myself. Oh, these are cute. And again, I had a friend who said, oh, I saw you made those for your skates on Instagram. I just bought a pair of skates. Make some for me and put them in your shop. I'm like, okay, I can do that. And then before I knew it, I had all kinds of sales from roller skate accessories. So
yeah. And the thing that we go back to what you started with Etsy, the stuff you were selling on Etsy on the regular was stuff that you were out shopping for, buying, that you enjoyed, and it didn't feel like a full-time job to like do an Etsy listing, take some photos, sell some stuff. That stuff
I still love it.
Yeah, I mean, and we still do it. Like that's the reality of what we're doing. It's been over 10 years. We still do it, like, because we enjoy it. But that was not chasing a trend. That was not any of that nature. And the same thing that happened with the Harry Potter stuff or the wizarding, like
wizarding school robes.
Yeah, wizarding school robes kind of thing. With those, that was not oh my god, the movies were out and over.
Oh yeah, no, I made them because I made the robes because the Universal Harry Potter land at Universal Studios Hollywood, whatever, was opening, and well, not you weren't going because you don't like Harry Potter, but I was going with your cousin basically. And we had a ball and I was like, well, we need robes to wear in the park. So I made one for myself, I made one for him, and then was like, well, we're gonna be walking around the park wearing these awesome robes. Let me just make an Etsy shop and make some business cards and see if anybody wants to buy them from me. But that's kind of what I do.
You made more robes before Wizarding.
No.
Oh, that was a start. I thought you were making.
I made mine, and then I made Nathan's, and then we wore them in the park.
Wait. The first one you made was because you did a kids party, right?
No, I already had my robe at that point.
Okay,
but I did dress up as a character. I mean, it wasn't like a specific Harry Potter character. I made my own wizard character. What was her name? It was like Poppy. Oh, I made a whole character. Now I can't remember her name. It was Poppy something. But yeah, I wore glasses. I wore my robe. I did a whole like wand ceremony. It was for my one of my best friend's little cousin's like 11th birthday, and made her an acceptance letter to Hogwarts.
So wait, I'm lost in the history of this.
I don't remember where that was in the timeline.
Why did the first robe get made then? It wasn't for the Wizarding World opening. You had it way before that.
Did I? I don't think so. Did I wear it for a con?
Was it a con that you made the?
I mean, I might have just made one because I wanted one, honestly.
I'm trying to remember where that started from.
For the I thought I made mine for the opening also.
No, I thought you made a second one for the one.
I made Nathan's for that.
No, I know you made Nathan's, but you made a second one because you wanted to redo your first one because you didn't like.
But I didn't make a second one for myself. I never remade mine.
Oh, I thought you remade yours.
I never did. No, I wanted to.
Oh, okay.
But I never did.
So maybe it was for the opening of it that you made them.
Yeah.
But
anyways, they were so amazing that when we were walking around, people thought we worked there and they kept asking us questions about where things were. And we were like, we don't work here, but it's over there. Like, we already know everything about the whole park because we're obsessed and we're nerds. But yeah.
But in the end, like before we got the cease and desist, because you made those, and then what came of it, and this is my gripe of Etsy, because I've gotten a cease and desist for some of my art as well, kind of thing, and I understand it was original of my art but on not an original IP kind of thing. which we see at conventions all the time. We see it like there's stuff on Etsy right now that is not original IP to people that are selling copyrighted
that
things.
They don't have permission. Like you can type in Bluey and there's tons of Bluey stuff that comes up and you're like, not all of these shops have permission to use this art.
They don't. They're not buying license for the stuff. They're not going.
And you can type in anything and it's
find
on there.
Stuff. And why certain things get hit, I don't understand. And why it's not a clear line across the board with it. But you did not call it Harry Potter robes. You did not call it anything.
No, not any of the titles or any of the descriptions. I did use the tags, because I knew like
SEO
people
tags,
search, which I don't think there's any problem with that personally. No, I think I forget. I don't even know how my stuff got found, but it did.
It was right when the premiere of the Fantastic Beasts, the first movie.
It was right around then, yeah.
It went across Etsy. Like Universal came through, and like it wasn't just us that got hit. It was multiple shops. We saw it on different forums. We saw other things but it was a black robe that had colored lining to match houses.
Color.
But it was a frustrating part, and I can understand people's frustration with it, is that you were making these $200 to $300 custom costume cosplay, like tuxedo fabric.
We're talking like 8 yards of high quality fabric. I mean, each one took a week to 2 weeks to sew. I took people's measurements, made them custom to each person.
Which a lot of people, because of
pockets, because
sizes, there was a variety of sizes you made for different people, and that was the struggle. Certain people had certain heights, certain had certain like widths about them that they did not have that in the regular store, and you offered a solution that was that. And man, the pictures that came back of the smiles on their faces at conventions with them was awesome. It was really cool to see. And you sold maybe 100, maybe between 50 and 100.
Yeah, between 50 and 100. It was
of them. And I think the coolest one is like when you got a first international one, and it took like 3 weeks to get to Australia, I think.
And I was so nervous. I was like, this is a really expensive, like if it's lost or damaged, I'm out.
I think they were like $400 or something like that when it all came down to like shipping.
Yeah, with shipping and the cost of everything, it was
But like then they got it, and like their review was awesome. They really loved it. The pictures they sent were awesome. So it was really cool, and it's really like it was heartbreaking.
It was, but it was kind of a blessing and a curse, because at that point I was working full time, and then this was basically another full time job on top of my regular full time job, and I was like, I loved it. I loved doing it. I loved making these robes for fans who I knew were real fans. I don't want to say real fans like me, but were really fans of the property. And yeah, I was bummed, but I was also like, well, it's kind of a relief because it took a lot of my free time.
And then what I found very funny is the wands that you had on there were inspired by the ones from the movie. Those didn't get a cease and desist ever. They never. And there were so many other,
because they were original designs. But I mean, my robe had I very intentionally designed it with
robe.
It was. I very intentionally I designed it myself. I designed it with some small changes from the robes in the films, which also the robes in the first 1 or 2 films, I forget when they switched, were different than the robes in the later films. So they were not the same as the ones in the movies anyways. But all of that aside, I've gotten a cease and desist on a listing for using the word Velcro.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I had to change all of the listings that had Velcro to hook and loop, because that's the generic term, and Velcro is a brand name, which I understand, but it's you don't know how many messages I still get. People go, what's hook and loop? What does that mean? And it's Velcro, but I can't say Velcro.
Yeah. And
it's just Velcro.
I get the large corporate company protecting their ass and everything with certain things, so they aren't held liable, but it is very frustrating from that side of things. And I've seen
when people say Kleenex instead of facial tissue.
Yeah,
we all know you just
or a Xerox copy instead of a print or
photocopy or whatever.
Photocopy, yeah. But that is I think my most disdain for Etsy. Everything else about it, though, with the fees, with the the advertising, extra costs sometimes, with all these things, with the amount of people that are there, I think that's really cool that there's that many people out there that are makers in between all the other things that are on there as well, because there's still a lot of makers on the website.
Yeah. Another positive I will say for Etsy is you mentioned how much we love Etsy.
Again, we're not paid by this is not a paid sponsored by Etsy. This is just our like sharing our experience with you guys.
But another thing I really appreciate, and another reason I'm willing to pay for the, selling fees and all of that, is the protection that they offer for both buyers and sellers.
Yeah.
Which,
Man,
depending
this so
on how
sounds like a sell too.
It really does, but I genuinely mean it, because there have been times where I've gotten messages that seem very scammy, and then vice versa. I've had people message me and be like, is this legit? Yes, I'm a real shop, and here's purchase protection. So there's policies in place to protect both the buyer and the seller, which you can get through using like some other services like PayPal, but you won't necessarily get if you set up your own shop.
Yeah, we have one of our guests that was on the show. They have a kind of a love-hate relationship with Etsy. Mm-hmm. They don't, but they're like over 3,000 sales in like 6 months kind of thing because of Etsy. And I'm like, it can't be all that bad if you guys are making sales through there. And if you are calculating the cost and everything and you're profiting and your business is growing, it can't be all that bad.
Yeah.
Like we jumped off of the topic a little bit of chasing the trends, and because of like talking about our history of everything, kind of got on a tangent there. But I want to get back to where I see a lot of people make comments on forums about their sales have slowed down, their traffic to their page is not as much. I asked a genuine question to these people who are having these complaints is, when have you put new updated product in your shop? When, again, making maker art changes dramatically. From last week's show to next week's show, I will have a different audience at every show that some stuff sells really well for us. Some stuff never leaves the table kind of thing. And that's okay. But when you are a single one thing item that you have up for your show or your Etsy sale that's been up there for the same thing, but maybe a new product of the same thing for 2 years, 3 years, and you had really good sales 2 years ago, but now it's starting to, that item might have run its course. And as makers, like we should be constantly learning our craft. Like, don't get comfortable in what you make and expect that to be the thing that sells over and over and over again, because we all like will follow trends in what we buy. And I know I said don't follow trends, but in the sense of like just going in clothing, like, oh my God, 90s clothing. Again, I'm going to rant like I'm an old person here kind of thing. I know,
but it's all
back right now.
Early 2000s. Why?
And so like there is a whole fluctuation of vintage clothing that was not selling for us 2 years ago that is now selling very popular. And we knew it was vintage. We bought it and weren't expecting 90s trend to be the thing. But now it's like, hey, that's the thing. We were just like, oh, look, this is old. Like, buy it. Like, and so, but with Etsy, because the marketplace is so loaded, you kind of have to continue to be fresh with what you're doing and
be relevant.
Yeah. And I know that's relevant in the terms of not the trend, but relevant in the terms of that, like your stuff is new to your audience. If your audience is coming back to support you, if they've purchased everything you've already had and you still are making the same thing, they can't support you anymore because you have nothing new for them to potentially buy. So there is this constant thing. When we talk about like toe cap materials for your skate stuff, you're constantly looking at new materials, constantly looking at new colorways, constantly. Like if we just put the same, and also certain materials go out of like production and you can't get it anymore, which is your top seller. And you go, crap, what do I do now?
Well, I can't buy that anymore. So I got to find something else.
So you should constantly be like, even if it's your same item, but colorways, and start looking at diversifying your materials. If you only make t-shirts and like, oh, maybe I start making sweatshirts kind of stuff, that helps you grow. And then all of a sudden your shop also looks like, instead of having 1 or 2 items or 10 items, might have 20, 30, 40 items.
Well, and the nice part is a listing only costs 20 cents. So it's not that much of an investment to say, well, I made this new, design or version of this thing that I sell. Let me just throw it up in a listing and see how it does. because that might be a way to find what works and what doesn't work, or what people are interested in, what they're not interested in. It's a couple 20-cent listings of like, oh, I've got this version, I've got this version. And quick tip for you, in your description, make sure you're linking to your other listings. So for example, I have, several different versions of my toe caps. In each toe cap listing, I say, check out my other toe caps if you're looking for more toe caps, or if you're looking for something a little different. Yeah. And then I put a link to the section of the shop with all the skate toe caps. So that they can see like, oh, okay, I like these, but I'm not sure this is what I want. Oh, look, she has more options. Let me go check those out.
Yeah. And when it comes to, where was I going with this on this? No, you're fine. I just was trying to go to the point of, man, I completely lost my train of thought.
Talking about relevant, change your art changes,
progressing with it and staying relevant instead of trend setting kind of thing. It gets to a situation where, this is where I was saying that 20 cents like charge that you get charged for listing kind of thing. Like, again, put that into your cost of your item. But you were saying Etsy has all these back room like tutorials and helpful hints and things. They are there. And this is, again, me working in a corporate world at some point kind of thing, understanding like they expect you to use them, and that's part of those fees kind of thing. And like they're not going to go, oh, they're not using them, so let's charge them less. It's like, no, they're there for you and everybody. So if you guys like use them, there's a lot of good tips and a lot of good changes. The one thing I can say from like Instagram influencers and social media and TikTok influencers, everything, the ones that like are really on top of it, it's because they read the articles that Instagram puts out and TikTok puts out and like Etsy puts out, because those kind of articles and those emails, and if you turn them off kind of thing, you're
subscribe to the
out.
Newsletter.
Yeah.
Subscribe to the newsletter.
Behind the scenes of like YouTube stuff that like is just there. There's whole tutorials like on videos of like from YouTube headquarters saying, hey, here's this. And then when there's a change, like, here's this. Watch the videos, read the articles, do that, because they're there because they know they have to continuously change their website. They have to continuously adapt for the way this world of the internet works kind of thing. But if we are trying to stick back in 2012, the shop we have now would not be where it is.
No, if I tried to keep doing the same thing that I was doing then, it would not be successful.
And I mean, 2012 Etsy to 2024 Etsy is not the same Etsy. Nope. And that's okay. Like, I will, if there is something that comes out in the next year, 2 years that has the feeling of old Etsy, and this whole nostalgia thing that everyone goes, we want it like it used to be. It's not going to ever be what it used to be. But if there's stuff out there that can do what Etsy does for us, I'll give it a shot. Yeah. I will try other sites. We'll put other things up. Yeah. There's a lot of different places that you can go to stuff. You can now sell through TikTok. You can now sell through Instagram. You can do all these things.
Yeah, you can set up shop in Instagram.
And for some people that works. For some people it doesn't. And so it is a lot of trial and error, and it does seem like it could be a little daunting. But if this is what you want to do, and pursue these kind of things, guess what? You're now working your own 9-to-5 job for your own business. Like, that is the reality.
And unlikely not 9-to-5.
Always longer hours. And but it is for, again, we talk about this with everybody on the show. It's so much more rewarding to know
we do it because we love it.
You did it. You created it. You made your own success kind of thing. And utilizing these tools, like, to use a horrible analogy of it, it's like, you can use the crescent wrench to do 100 different jobs and everything. If you guys know what a crescent wrench is and everything, it's this wrench that has a wheel that you tie in there. But anyways, you go, that works. But like that job,
I like that other wrench that I found the other day.
She found an adjustable socket.
It was so on there, so great, so easy to use.
It's, again, a limited use. It's not used for everything, but like it does help in a pinch kind of thing. But that tool has a hundreds, if not thousands, of uses for it kind of thing. But it's how you use it is going to benefit you. But when you start looking at the specialty tools for the jobs, you might have spent 2 hours with that crescent wrench when you might only spent 5 minutes with the specialty tool. It's a life changer kind of thing. And I go back to my dad. There's always the right tool for the job kind of thing. And so we have a lot of tools because we do a lot of different jobs. And Etsy is just one tool we use. That is not, this is why we talk about it, because we do the shows because it's local. All these people around that come and support us when we're local is great. But we have,
just at this show, sales. I would say just the show last weekend, we had another person walk into our booth and say, "Oh yeah, I have this print I bought from you guys at this other show."
Yeah,
and then wanted to buy more stuff from us, like
which
wanted
was really
to continue
cool.
To support us.
Yeah, and continuing to support. I'm like, oh, repeat customer is super cool because it like I forget the show that the Mount Mart. They were talking about Mount Mart show. Is where they first saw us, bought stuff from us there, and that's over a whole year later. Yeah. They still remember who we were.
I know. I
bought more stuff, wanted to support, but the local side of things is on top of the Etsy stuff. The Etsy stuff and the Instagram is another tool to use. The TikTok, what we're doing here with YouTube is another tool that we use. But like, it's going to take a lot of effort. And like I said, Etsy is just a single tool that we utilize to do what we do.
Yeah. Well, and I did want to get into, since this episode is about Etsy, not sponsored. I did want to get into a couple tips really quickly, since I have had multiple Etsy shops and we do have I would say, successful Etsy shop. Like you mentioned, subscribe to the newsletter. Etsy will literally send you emails that say, this is how to make your shop a success. So clue into those and see what tips they have for you and what they recommend doing with your shop in terms of like using their coupons or holding sales or, converting.
Not every influencer's success story is going to work for you.
Yeah.
It's going to be different.
Yeah. But Etsy has lots of different strategies to help you convert, clicks into customers or into sales. So number one, and then number two, a really, really important part of your shop listings are the photos, and specifically the thumbnail photo. When you go on Etsy and you're searching for, a nerdy t-shirt because you're looking for a gift for your friend, thousands of listings are going to come up, and the ones that people click on are the ones that have good photos. So I would say spend a little time on your photos if you're going to spend time anywhere, making sure they're well lit, making sure it shows the product really well. Etsy lets you put up 10 photos and a video. Use all of them. Like literally, if you're not using all 10 photos, you're missed opportunity. Show it from every angle, show it on a person, show it on a dog. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, just use those photos.
The photos are so important. And I just showed you one the other day. This is not Etsy. This was Goodwill, shopgoodwill.com or something like that.
Goodwill auction site that he's obsessed with right now.
And literally, it was a photo of a camera and it was blurry. But that was the photo. I'm like, guys,
one photo blurry from far away. You couldn't even see what the camera was.
You could take a second photo. Like I shoot film. I understand it. Like when it's like it was film, you got to develop, and you're like, man, every film's got to count, kind of thing. Yeah. But this is digital. Yeah. Like you can take thousands of photos and pick the one that you think is the best.
You don't even need a high quality camera. Like I take our shop photos with my cell phone.
Yeah.
We have cameras. Like we have professional cameras, but I'm like, no, cell phone's easy and it's going on the internet, so it doesn't need to be large,
Yeah. And again, this is experience from our background of what we do. The key thing with the phone is good. Lighting, though. Yes. Make sure you have pretty solid lighting. And that's not like big studio lights or anything. No. That's just adding a lamp to throw more light on your item, to throw more highlight on stuff. Okay, guys, we're going to take a quick pause real quick, deal with Juniper, and we'll be back. Okay, guys, back real quick. Juniper woke up from her nap. So we're going to be wrapping this episode up real quick, but we did last photography. Doesn't take a lot. There's a lot of tutorials online. Watch a couple YouTube videos. I don't want to say we're going to do a tutorial video on how to do product photography. There's so much out there already that has more experience, more kind of dive into it than what we probably will.
Yeah, she agrees.
She agrees, yes. Yeah. But that's the thing. And then you wanted a last little thing.
Yeah. So the other thing I was going to say that I love about Etsy, not sponsored, is that I get a lot of the custom commissions that I do through Etsy, through the Etsy shop. We do have like cosplay items up in the shop, and in the description, I make sure I mention that I do custom commission. So if someone wants something similar or wants, other pieces for a costume that they're putting together, they can always reach out. And I get a lot of, they're not called DMs on Etsy, but DMs, direct messages, asking about, like, oh, hey, I saw you have this really cool hood. I'm looking for something similar, but, a little different. Can you do this for me? Or can you do that? So, yeah, I get a lot of the custom commissions through the Etsy shop as well.
And like, again, I've seen a lot of the negatives. I've seen a lot of people, and I don't know, like how varying degrees everyone's experiences are with Etsy, but I can say, like, we've been doing it for over 10 years, and it's for the most part 99% been positive for us, and it's allowed us to do what we do today and have the confidence, because Etsy for us came before we started doing shows. Oh, yeah. And so the shows were like, hey, we're doing this and people are buying online. Let's see if local people want to do this as well. So, like, for some people, I would say, like, it's not for everyone. Etsy can be a daunting process, and it can be something that can take a lot. And if you started the show side of things and you're thinking online, the easiest route right now that I'm aware of, and if you guys know of a better solution or a better route kind of thing, please leave it in the comments for everyone who listens to see as well, or message us so we know and we can look into it for ourselves as well. But Etsy seems to be the easiest solution at the moment right now.
Yeah, I think so. And vice versa as well. I know some people start on Etsy or start online and are nervous about doing markets. I think it's one of those things where it's like, it may not be for you. It might be, give it a try.
And honestly, I think you can outgrow Etsy. You can become super successful where a platform like Etsy isn't for you, isn't the need for what you need for being an online merchant. But like, for the influencers out there, I think they're doing a disservice telling people to start their own website, and it's not, you aren't going to gain the foot traffic
unless you have a really big Instagram following and you really think you can drive those followers to a website. Yeah, I really think Etsy is the place to start because of that built-in marketplace.
To dip your toes in the water, I would probably say start on something that has a structured platform that makes it a little easier for you to get a feel for it.
Yeah, there's already so much traffic that's driven to Etsy without you having to try and drive sales personally to a website. Yeah.
So, again, this episode has not been sponsored. We're not being paid. No one's giving us any backdoor money.
Unless Etsy wants to.
Hey, Etsy, like, come in the DMs. But no, on a serious note, though, this is our experience and some of the things we wanted to share with you guys, because we've shared so much about the market side of things for us. We wanted to share what our online experience has been like for us as well. And if you guys have questions or comments, or concerns, please leave them in the comment section. Let us know. And maybe we might be able to learn from each other, or maybe we can help you along your journey with that as well. But I think Juniper is going to cut this episode a little short for us here. But
we were almost done anyways.
Yeah, but we do appreciate you guys for joining us on this episode. We'll be back in 2 weeks with the next episode with some awesome guests on some cool things, local maker market stuff.
Thanks so much for listening and watching.
Yeah, see you guys on the next one. Bye.